Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Yang. I know in our last week's session, you have a lot of questions about company analysis, part one, and potentially part two. So I will just give you this video. I'll create this video for you guys to to understand a little bit more about what this assignment is about and how to find the information, as well as more guidance that you guys needed to complete your both assignments. I also want to let you know that the company analysis part one, I have extended the deadline to next Wednesday. So you will not be due by the end of this Sunday. So you have a couple more days to work on it. Accordingly, I extended the deadline for part two as well. So for this week, for the week 3, you have the IPIP personality assessment business brief due. And next week, next Wednesday, you will have a company analysis part 1 due, and you have the automation and jobs that paper due. Okay. And I will emphasize that again. I will remind you guys next Monday when we have our lectures. Now let's go ahead and get started to the company analysis. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to explain to you how to use the MGMT database to download the data you need for the computation, and I will explain the worksheet and the Excel templates, and I will also show you a company analysis sample. All right, and lastly, I will explain the assignments itself. So while you do the company analysis, is like human health check. Okay, like human health, you check your weight, you check your BMI, heart rate, temperature, and so forth. A company health check is to check the balance sheet, income statement, the cash flow, and liquidating. It sounds intimidating, but don't panic. So you have to learn the terms first. So we provided an article, How to Read the Financial Statements. So that's a very good article. Please read those in the details, understand the terms that you will be using, such as assets, liabilities, and so forth. The income statement and balance sheet. Understand those terms first. Now, in our last week's class, Hashem shared with us briefly about the MGMT database. So you can go to the Franklin University's library, okay, to go to check the MGMT database. I did the screenshot here, but there are multiple ways to do that. So sometimes you can go to the research guides and MBA. You can find the MGMT database. Another way to find the database is a login to the Franklin University library. You must log in first, okay? Log into the Franklin University account and go to database and type MGMT. You will find the MGMT database from there as well. So after you get into the MGMT database, you type the company you are going to search and type your company's name here, and then you can click go, or if you want to add additional search criteria, you can do that as well. But basically, if you click the company's name, click go, you will obtain a list of search results. So let's say you use a keyword Apple. You search for Apple, and then after you type the keyword Apple, you will be redirected to this page where you can see the company details, executives, ownership, company financials, and so forth. Click the tab of company financials, where you can see the synopsis, highlights, history, business, property, and so forth. So go to the company financials first. After you click that tab, they have as reported, preliminaries, standardized, restated ratios analysis, okay? So you click the standardized. Here you can see, you can select annuals and income statement. Later on, you can select the balance sheet. You can select 5 years or 3 years, and you can download them as Excel sheet to your computer. Okay, so check that box of download and make sure you type income statement here. And there are a lot of data here you can search for. And you can find from the database here for the Excel sheet you need. And after you download that, you can paste Excel sheet as an active worksheet in the Word document. So when you can click object and link the object as Microsoft Excel worksheet. Okay, that you can link that Excel's active worksheet to your Word. Now the next is all right, the next I'm gonna explain to you the worksheet. I know you had a lot of questions about the worksheet last week. Now I'm gonna explain those here. So total revenue is easy. Total revenue is where you will get that data from the merchant database. You just type this data here, or you can just have it in your Excel sheet. So one question you ask is about what percentage. So always use total revenue is 100% as a basis, okay? And then later on, the gross, let's say the gross profit or gross profit margin. So first, I want to emphasize this slash is not a formula. It's not gross profit divided by gross profit margin. It's actually two terms that you need to pay attention. So number one is the gross profit, and number two is the gross profit margin. Gross profit is the money a company earns after subtracting the costs. So here's the formula for gross profit. Total revenue, subtract costs of goods. The profit margin is the percentage of a revenue that exceeds a company's costs of goods sold. So the higher the margin is, the more effective the company's management is in generating revenue for each dollar of cost. And below here's the formula. Here's the formula. You can calculate the gross profit margin. And after you calculate the margin, and it's a percentage. The percentage is the percentage of the gross profit from the total revenue. Okay, so that's where you put the percentage here. That's where you put the percentage here. Okay, same as the other ones. So it's the same as the other ones, like the operating income. The EBIT is the same term. It used exchangeably with operating income, and operating margin is a percentage of operating income in the total revenue. Okay, so that's why you have percentage here. You have operating income amount here and the percentage here. Same as interest income and expenses. That's the percentage of the interest income or interest income in the total revenue. Now let's go to the next slide. And the next slide is the operating income versus operating margin. Operating income represents the total pre-tax profit a business has generated from its operations. So the formula for operating income is the gross profit subtract the operating expenses, which you will have that in your, will calculate that in your Excel worksheet. And the operating margin is how much profit a company makes on a dollar of sales after paying for variable costs of production. And here it is a formula. Operating margin is operating minus divided by the revenue. So that's why here the operating margin is a percentage of the operating income of the revenue, okay? The interest income and interest expenses. Interest income is the money earned by an individual or company for lending the funds. Interest expense, however, is the cost of borrowing money from financial institutions. So those numbers you can obtain it from the Merchant Online database, as I showed earlier. If in some cases you may not be able to find those data from the Merchant Online database, you can go to the company's website. They always have a tab of financials and go to annual report. That you can obtain the data that you may not be able to find at the Merchant database. And those annual report on the company's database, financial, the tab on the company's website, it's always the most accurate and most recent. And I am able to find most of pretty much the annual report for all the public companies on their website. So that's another way you can use to find the information. Now here's an example. This is an example of the worksheet. See, total revenue. This is the total revenue, 11,574 to 47,000. So this is presumably as 100%. And the gross profit, that's this 1,903,845. This is the gross profit. And this number, 16.4%, is the percentage of the gross profit from the revenue. Okay, same as operating income. This is operating income. This is a calculated percentage from this number to the total revenue. And same as interest incomes, 0.3% out of total revenue. And the net income is 2.8% out of the total revenue. So that's what this worksheet is about. Now, the Excel, I talked about Excel spreadsheet. So the Excel spreadsheet, you have sheet 1 and sheet 2. I want to let you know that sheet 1 is an example that provided to you. It has the numbers and has the formulas. So that's the example of a Jane's company's income statement and the balance sheet. So you will use sheet 1 as example and the sample formulas for your company, which the blank Excel sheet is in the sheet 2. So the sheet 2 is the one you need to work on, okay? Sheet 2 is the one you need to work on to actually put in all the numbers for the sheet 2. Hope that helps. Sheet 1 is an example for you to take a look and study. Now, the written part. The part 1, let me start with part 1. So the part 1, after you put in after you gather all the data and put a number in the Excel spreadsheet, and you will use those Excel spreadsheet using data and what number you calculated from the Excel sheet to write a 2-page business brief. So the brief, you will need to assess the company's recent performance in terms of its revenues, sales, and profitability, liquidity, and the leverage over the last 3 years. So you do not have to do any computation for this, but those other discussion points you should or you need to generate from the Excel or from the worksheet. And there are 2 articles here, how to find a financial report. And there's another article that feels really good, A Simple Guide to a Company's Financial Statements. I will upload this, I will upload the second article to your course so you can download it and then you can read it. The first one is already in your course. So that's your part 1. So what the requirements for part 2, yes, before you work on part 2, you need to locate and download and review your company's annual report, the earnings announcement, and or recorded earnings call. And you can find all those information from the company's website, financials tab, okay? So if you go to, let's say, if you go to apple.com and go to financials, you can find all the annual reports, the earnings announcement, and recorded earnings calls. Okay, and sometimes some finance search engine such as Google Finance or Yahoo Finance, they also have those earnings announcement or recorded earning calls as well. Okay, so those are the places you can go to find those information before you start to write your part 2, the business brief part 2. Now, in your part 2, what you need to specifically include is the firm's public discussion of its most recent fiscal year's results. Okay, so what are the public discussion you have found for Apple? Okay, and what the message did those public announcement deliver? So what the tone of the discussion and the message conveys to the stakeholders and to the investment company. So that's what you need to find out first. And then you need to discuss to what extent your assessment of the company's performance from part 1 is consistent with the firm's own public description of its results. So here you need to compare and contrast for what you did from part 1 versus what your company's own description of its results. And then you need to identify any line items from the financial statements and any financial ratios like the debt to income ratio and so forth that are particularly emphasized by the company in its report, announcement, and the call. So what ratios did you use? So you probably need to get those ratios that in the Excel spreadsheet, and then you need to discuss those ratios in your part 2. And lastly, you just need to prepare for the requirements of the team report, because the team report is a continuous assignment, continuous work from your company analysis. You discuss the firm's performance in the context of an industry, okay? So if you did this in your in your individual part of the company analysis too, when you come to the team report, everyone just get together and come up with the ranks and additional discussion for each company. So you will need to identify what you believe are the company's advantages in the marketplace and the strategies to exploit them. So that's what I prepared for you to work on your part 1 and part 2. And I hope you find this helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. All right, I will see you next Monday.